Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namaskar everyone. Welcome to our 11th session on how to study the Bhagavad Gita. Today we will discuss chapter 8, that is Akshar Brahma Yoga. So Nilesh, this is I think the last part of the Dhyana Yoga. As you know, we had laid out the structure of the Gita in the beginning. So can we start with you giving us a gist of this chapter, and then I will have a couple of questions for you.
All right, thanks, Ashwini. So yes, that is correct. Chapter Adhyaya 6, 7, 8 together forms the yoga module, we can say, or Dhyana yoga module, okay, to be specific, because everything is a yoga. So in just for a second going back, so up to fifth chapter, there was that completion, karma yoga, karma sannyas, everything is done. Whatever Krishna wants to tell Arjun is done. Actually, it's done in second chapter. Arjun extends it with a specific question about the Buddhi Yoga versus Sankhya Yoga, Karma Yoga, and all that. And Krishna expands his message through Adhyaya 3, 4, and 5. So now, beginning with chapter 6, essentially now we are looking at the tools to achieve whatever is discussed in chapter 2 or at the end of chapter 5 or 5 included. So part of this is that Dhyana Yoga. So chapter 6 focused on the basics of it, you can say, that focus, what's important, how it is up to you, the Uddaren Atmanamanam, and like how to focus, as a practice, as a sadhana. Just like, if we are doing a bhakti and part of that is say Murti Puja, to practice ourselves as a sadhaka, like, how to engage. And that can be done through Saguna Upasana or a Murti Puja, Sakar Puja. But that is not to say after the puja is over, we can behave whichever way we want. Okay, but that's like something we learn as in a certain way and then try to bring it to rest of our life, everyday life. That's the kind of message there. In seventh chapter, it is a sadhana again, the continuation of that, but how to train your mind, how to train your buddhi, how to train your sharir. That's what we looked it into the seventh chapter. The eighth chapter essentially summarizes this. Okay, essentially it summarizes this. And now you will have the discussion of how to prepare yourself for transition from this body, let's say, from this lifetime to the next. Okay.
Yes.
And in तुकारामाज, I think तुकारामाज words, याजसाठी केला होता अट्टहास, शेवटचा दिन गोड व्हावा. So it's like all this we are doing is to, not everyone would even agree or not even everyone understands. Agreement comes afterwards. So people, so that this is like preparing yourself. It's like a aeroplane taking off and making last quick checks. And are you ready? Did you get everything done? So this is the title is what Akshara Brahma Yoga. Okay, for
Yes.
this it is, which is to say Brahma is Akshara. It is always there. It's always there, and just recognizing that is what basically preparing through this. So essentially, there is nothing. I shouldn't say nothing. There is not much additional into the chapter 8, but essentially it's a summary of 6 and 7, and that completes the Dhyana Yoga.
Right. So actually, yes, it is a small chapter, I think, with only 28 shloks.
Right.
So there are a few shloks actually which, like, yam yam vapi smaran bhavam, yeah, antakale cha mameva, yam yam vapi smaran bhavam, which basically Krishna is trying to say that in whatever bhav, towards the end of our life, we leave our body, we go back to the same bhav after leaving the body. We become one with that same bhav. So essentially, he's trying to tell us always malasmar, always keep me in mind, because that is the bhav. If you do that, you will come back to me, is what he's trying to say. So how do we practice that? And does it mean that only when like when you're 80-year-old and when you know that you're going to near your end, you start doing the mantra jap, or shouldn't it be right from day one so that we are already into that mode? So what is your take on that?
Okay, so I know that's a great one. So a couple of points on this. Um, this is not only limited to what we are discussing here, but actually what is discussed here applies to everything. Say in research work, people tell me, like when they will become familiar with my work, they said, Nilesh, I also have a plan similar. Once I retire, I'm also going to do original research like you. Okay. And of course, I mean, the person has a right intention. So I would say, oh, that's great. But the reality is, if somebody is in a very naive mindset thinking, once they retire, they will do something. And some people are actually lucky. Pandit Satavadekar was one good example, who started studying Sanskrit at the age of 60. Until then, he was a painter. I mean, he used to do painting and many things. And then he lived up to 100 years and he did a tremendous work. Okay. I mean, those are exceptions. Lucky. There is a Bhagavad Kripa. But for an average person, somebody's thinking once they retire, they will do it. It will not happen. This is directly and indirectly told to us through many case studies. In fact, all the katha and upakatha and upakhyan and main akhyan that we see through our itihasa, whether it's a Mahabharata, Ramayana or Purana, doesn't matter. These are like case studies. So, for example, think of the two which are related to the question you asked. One is, say, the story of Ajamila, who was in Ikshwaku dynasty long before Bhagwan Ram and all that, or Gajendra Moksha. And these are case studies actually, which is like a katha is given, Purva Katha Yuktam, that is there. But it is given with some clues, not all the clues. This could be deliberate, or the person who formulated this case study, katha, may not know all the answers. But this is for one to meditate. So, for example, Ajamila, supposedly, the way the story has been told and the way I heard, it's like the person didn't spend a long time, but at the end of the life, kind of realizes that, hey, I wasted my time. In Marathi, like Jitendra Abhishek is famous Abhanga Kaivalyacha Chandanyala Bukela Chakor Balpani Khedi Ramalo Tarunya Nasale, that kind of thing, right? Vruddhapani Deva Ata Dise Pailatira, something like that, something similar situation. And somebody says, take the name of Narayana. He says, hey, I'm not used to this. Now the stories are told in many different ways. So he puts the name of his son as Narayana. Okay, in one version of a story. Therefore, a case study, when you solve the case study in a business school or law school or medical school, you may have your own version of what it is, what the story is. One such story is coming to us, at least the one I am narrating right now. And so he designates the name of his son as Narayana, and therefore he's so attached to him. And every time he's calling, he's very old now, but calling Narayana, 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 And when that his death time comes, the Yama comes, the Yamadut comes, he still calls his son Narayana, and therefore the Narayana, the Bhagwan Narayana comes and rescues him. That is the one version, one interpretation of that story. That's how we write the case study. Let me just complete. So don't want to go into Gajendra Moksha, the detailed one, but as a story of Gajendra Moksha, people also ask, oh, so in an animal form also you remember, and so on and so forth. And some clues we also get, like with Bhagwan Raman Maharshi, there was a cow who used to come and see him every day and so on. But if somebody wants a textbook answer, the kind of answer that are expected in the elementary schools, those answers are not to be found, or they cannot be understood from somebody. You have to find you have to do your own study. Just one last point, that Satat, how you have to remember all the time. Should we start at the beginning? To this particular Adhyaya, Vinobaji has given a name, like we just call Akshara Brahma Yoga, right? But Vinobaji has given a name to this Adhyaya as Satatya Yoga. The idea is start as soon as you come to know about it. Don't waste time. Don't give up. Don't stop. And then don't worry much about it. Then let whatever happens. That is the answer to this your question.
In fact, you were talking of sun. So this morning, I was with Nihar, and he happened to have a call with one of his friend who wanted some advice. So Nihar told that person that he was asking when is a good time to start that. So Nihar said there's always the good time to start anything good is yesterday, and the next best good time is now.
Yeah.
So that
Correct.
is what the
Satatya
best
Yoga.
time. Satatya Yoga.
Yeah.
So anybody asks us what is a good time to start? Yesterday. Next good time, the next best time now. Here
Right.
and now.
Right.
Yeah. So that's correct. Satya is so very important. Consistency. Without consistency and focus, nothing can be achieved. And it's a frame of mind that we need to be in,
Correct.
so that and that can be achieved only with abhyas. Otherwise, it will not be possible. My next
Perseverance,
question,
like perseverance,
perseverance.
tenacity. I mean, you can just add many words to that. The bottom
Mm,
line is
yeah,
you don't give up. There can
yeah,
be a gap, but there cannot be a contradiction, or at least if
yeah.
there are contradiction, you try to eliminate them, right,
Mm,
in your
mm,
study, going towards your
mm.
destination.
Also, there are a few shloks in this chapter towards the end, Shukla Krishna Gati
Hmm.
Hite Jagatah Shaswate Mate. So,
Right.
wherein Krishna is trying to say that whosoever can leave the body in the Uttarayan, in the Shukla Praksha, during
Yes.
daytime, will achieve moksha.
Yeah.
How about people? So, Bhishma ji could achieve that, right? He waited on the bed of arrows for 98 odd plus days for Uttarayan to start, and then he left his body. But what
Hmm.
about common mortals like us? What if we leave our body in the Dakshinayan, in the Vadyapaksha during night? Do will we never get the Gati or the Moksha or the Mukti or better life?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. In fact, when we decided we'll do chapter 8 today, so I quickly
Yeah.
was looking through chapter 8, like this. And so I wrote down these verses. Okay. In fact, the
Mm,
way you asked the question correctly. In fact, that is on many people's minds, that will always be on people's mind. I would say, if I try to respond to that exactly like the way you ask, saying, oh, okay, so let me tell you the answer to that, then
mm,
actually the whole thing is downhill. We will never
mm,
recover from it, frankly,
mm,
because what has happened is, and this is not something, the issue that you and me are struggling with.
mm,
If you
mm,
look at, say, Shankaracharya's Shankaracharya commented on Bhagavad Gita, and he wrote many stotra and all that, the Panchadevata Upasana and all that. But he also wrote, the other big work that people credit him is his commentary on the Brahma Sutra,
mm,
the Vedanta, or you call it Uttara Mimamsa.
mm,
You can see Shankaracharya's commentary there, all that confusion that is related to answering this question. Although the question is not
mm.
related to Bhagavad Gita, I'm talking of Brahma Sutra, answering that
Okay.
question. So it will be, so I'm going to give to our, as a lesson, not lesson, as a suggestion to our viewers, that they should definitely either with a translation, and if they know Sanskrit, that's great. Now, not that Shankaracharya has always commented in sufficient detail, but they should read the commentary of Shankaracharya on these verses from the 8th chapter,
Okay.
number one.
Okay.
But also they should read Brahma Sutra, and Brahma Sutra,
Mm,
like the fourth, whatever they call chapter, but I'll just give it like a 4 point, the pada, and whatever they call 4.2.21. Okay,
mm,
so there, that the Brahma Sutra there, that sutra there is Yogina Praticha Smaryate Smarte Chaite. It's a
mm,
sutra. So therefore it's like written like a formula, equal to MC square.
mm.
We'll not go into
Mhm.
that, but a commentary of Shankaracharya on that is worth listening. And again,
Okay.
where Shankaracharya comes back is on the Satatya Yoga. He says, forget about which path, this path or that path, and just get to Jnana Marga, Shankaracharya's
Mm,
emphasis, and just Satatya Yoga, follow the Satatya Yoga, and then don't worry. So Shankaracharya's suggestion, advice is also like that. So that's number one.
mm,
Now, from the modern context, or in the context of what people know today, I want to give an answer in couple different ways. For example, um, if you literally look at it, and you already said it, how will we ordinary people do it? What to speak of ordinary people? In fact, other than Bhishma, we have to consider everyone is ordinary, right? Bhishma had that special boon, you can say, therefore he could hold it and so on.
mm, mm,
But this is not just saying, oh, it has to be only during the Uttarayan. Just
mm,
literally taking the literal meaning of it, just not
mm,
only
mm.
Uttarayan. It has to be what? Shukla Paksha. It has
Prabhaksha.
to be
Daytime.
during the day, daytime,
Agni.
right?
Mm,
And it's called the path of a Agni.
mm,
Okay. Now, if one understands that this is given in a way, what you say, don't want to call it even a upama or like an analogy or something, Like but that's how it is. This is a Guda Bhasha. This is a Guda language of Yoga Shastra. Okay. So for example, one simple way to at a high level to understand what that Agni represents. Agni is the action, if you think of it, like something really happening. It's burning, it's consuming. So that has a connection with a karma yoga. Okay. So you are enthused with the karma yoga, and with the understanding of karma yoga, you are busy in action. Again, goes back to Satatya. So that is one. Then the dina, right? For example, what is that word? I wrote it down. Agnir Jyotir Agni Jyotir Aha Shukla Shanmasa Uttarayanam, right?
Yes.
So for example, and then this is the path of Agni, which is also you can connect with the sun. And then other one is the path of Dhuma or Chandra, right? That is the second verse says, Tatra Chandramasam Jyotir Yogi Prapya Nivartate. So one is the path of the sun in a crude way, we can say. Another one is the path of the moon. Okay, that's how they have done it. Now, what do they mean by this? So Agni is like, inspired by Karma Yoga. That's how to be understood. Now, if you consider the Dina like a daytime, passing during the daytime, which means what? The light of the sun, which is what? In Marathi, we can say spashta or clear light.
Clear.
Okay, everything can be seen very well. So having the clarity of a mind, clarity of a buddhi, because sun is connected with the buddhi also. Okay, just like moon is connected with the mind.
Yeah. So state of mind, heightened state of mind,
State of buddhi here.
State of buddhi.
Yeah.
Where you are doing what you passionately have been or wanting to do.
Correct.
And that's the time.
That's the
Not
time.
when you're depressed or you don't know what to do in life and
Correct.
you are ajnani.
Correct.
So
and just want to add to complete that. And then Shuklardha, like a Shukla Paksha, which is to say the moonlight is there. Moonlight is available. Now, this will become a total digression. Therefore, I'm not going to go deeper into it. But actually, see, just like we call Shukla Paksha and Krishna Paksha. Okay. But then we also use the word Shuddha Paksha and Vadya Paksha. Right? So there is a meaning to that. Just like suns travel into the Uttara area, like the northern hemisphere, is one definition, and suns travel in the southern hemisphere is a different definition. As opposed to sun going in the northern direction, like from 21st December to 21st of June, is going in the northern direction. Every day it is rising to the north point, versus from 21st June to 21st December, it is rising every day to the southern side, further south, right? As opposed to fall equinox to spring equinox. Because, look at that point, fall equinox to spring equinox, sun is to the south of the equator, and otherwise it's the north of the equator. These are two different definitions. Similarly, Shukla Paksha, Krishna Paksha, and Shuddha Paksha, Vadya Paksha are actually different definitions. But over time, because of the precession of the Earth's axis, they came together and people got confused. That has also happened here. So I want to without going into Shukla Paksha, I want to just mention Shukla Paksha. Think of this as the presence of sufficient moonlight in the sky. That was the original meaning of it. Now that has got a bit confused with the Shuddha Paksha, that I will not go today. But so which means what? The sunlight is a clear light, spashta, clear. Moonlight is what? Saumya. It's a soft light. So even moonlight is good, the soft, but you want the moonlight as opposed to complete darkness. And then Uttarayan is what? Again, it's a very contextual, the Indian context. The Uttarayan, by and large, we can say, so think of that 21st January to 21st June. That is when the sky is clearer, by and large, in comparison to the rainy season, the 4 months, and then the whatever until 21st of December. So overall, the clarity of the sky, I mean, all the things are favorable to you. And if you think in the old times, that mattered most, right? Nowadays, electricity we have at night and everything works like it doesn't matter. In the offices, we don't know whether it's a daytime or nighttime. The lights are always on. Imagine the times when that was not the case, or people were not wastefully consuming just to create the light. Then the outside weather, outside atmosphere, all that mattered. Okay, so it is saying a conducive time for you. But not to forget, this is the language of a yoga shastra. It is an esoteric language. Quickly to understand, for example, just like computing science right now, or computers, when we talk about like files, folders, windows, cloud, we mean totally different thing than the cloud or the window of a house or file cabinet in the house, right?
Right.
Or in quantum mechanics, when we say
Folder.
collapsing of a wave function, that collapsing of a wave function is like a esoteric concept. It is not to be thought in the form of collapsing of a tree or something like this. So it is a language of a yoga shastra. Okay, and the opposite of that, Agni, what was that? Agni, day, Shukla Paksha, Uttarayan. Opposite of that is a dhuma, meaning smoke instead of fire. Instead of day, night. Instead of Shukla Paksha, the Krishna Paksha. Vadya Paksha, Krishna Paksha, right? Krishnardha. I think the word they use is like a Krishna Shanmata, right? Right? Meaning dark, meaning dark. Okay, and Shukla means there is a light, okay, so to say, even during the night. And of course, night, then Krishna Paksha and Dakshinayan. You can think exactly opposite of that. So Agni is like a Karma Yog Pravritta, it's not Karma Yog Pravritta. Day instead, it's a night. So it is a language, esoteric language. And, after this, it will be interesting to see the kind of comments we get. So I want to make one more comment and then we can close and I'll give you the last word there. When I thought about this, and when I used to give lectures on Bhagavad Gita going back to many years, in the temple in Canada, I remember this. Now this is going back 25 plus years, but I didn't know good answer, but I gave whatever little I knew. And this is one of the questions that is as confusing as people asking what happens to you after you die. And people can give different examples. How does the karma siddhanta works? People give their own explanation, right? Or my popular question, favorite question that irritates me, but it's a favorite question, is when the Kali Yuga is going to end, or what is the truth? The point is, people ask these questions, but if you give the answer to them, even based on your understanding of it, nobody is ever happy. So, for example, here now I will find that people will not be happy. I mean, at least some people will not be happy. And the reason I think they will not be happy is basically for this Agni, which path you take and so on, is for the exactly same reason that, they have a certain answer in their mind and they become happy only if you agree with it. Okay, quickly, one last point. Now, what did Bhishma do? I would say, just like a elder person while playing with a child, may act like a child. The child says, "Can you be my horse?" And the elder uncle or a grandpa becomes a horse. Bhishma, essentially, to emphasize this point of a 8th chapter, you can say that point of a yoga shastra, but he is a siddha, and through that siddhi, he can stay until the day of Uttarayana. To emphasize that point, he is staying there. It really doesn't matter for Bhishma which way he did.
Yeah.
He ended up staying for more than 95 days. And now Vyasadeva is using that information to encode the dating of Mahabharata into Mahabharata itself. Back to you.
So actually, it is actually a beautiful connection of Satyatya Yoga, which Krishna is trying to teach. This is one way of practicing it. I mean, one way of achieving Satyatya. He is saying that when we are always in an enlightened state of mind, when we are always karma pravrutta, when we are always thinking of Ishwar, when our mind is in that mode of thinking of Ishwar, when our body is in always a mode of doing karma, and we are on the path of getting more and more jnana. And here by jnana we mean atma jnana, not reading a book or achieving a PhD. It's leaning towards getting the atma jnana. We hope to go and leave our body in that state, in that physical, mental, buddhi, mana state. And that is the best state to leave the body. That I'm researching on, how do we leave our body? That is my kind of curiosity or passion that is driving me to read so many things. So I think And how will that be achieved? Only through satatya,
Correct.
which he is trying to tell us. Antakalecha mameva, yam yam vapi sparan bhavam, sushukla krishna gati heta. It's all that consistency, focus, and being karma pravritta. So it's all actually completely telling us to practice this satat in a satyatta manner. Practice karma yoga, practice karma sannyas, karma yoga, buddhi yoga, dhyana yoga
Correct.
in satatyane,
Correct.
consistently,
Yes.
and hopefully we will go in that state and become one with the Ishwar.
Correct.
We will
And
leave our body in that state.
correct. And so just for a practicing purpose, at least in the Maharashtrian tradition, like, every Bhadrapad, we will bring Ganesh Murti for either a day and a half or 5 days or 10 days. And then we do the
Yes.
Visarjan. The idea
Yes.
behind the Visarjan is to be ready, be ready for that separation ourselves. So Bhishma is showing that through his example for the benefit of us. But the point that you made is very important, because we may not have the luxury that Bhishma has or Bhishma could show. Therefore, we should be ready anytime. And that's in a way the
Anytime.
Satya Yoga.
Like right here, right now, we should be ready.
Correct.
And we should be ready in a state where it is a happy state, always.
Yes.
Yeah. It is a content state, always. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So that was a great discussion. Thank you, Nilesh. Thank you, everyone. Jagdamba, Jagdamba, Jagdamba.
Jagadamba.